right, this is day number 6 of the Mojave Road trip. Mojave Road and Heritage Trail combination. So I just left my camping spot, and I have about, if I choose to stay on the Mojave Road, I have maybe about 18-20 miles to finish it. But I chose to take a section of the Heritage Trail that goes kind of snakes south and east and goes to, I think it's south and east, and goes to Needles. And that's about 40 miles, which probably will take, in these conditions, will take most of the day. So I guess we'll see how it is. Now tonight, depends on how it goes, I may camp out or I may start heading back home. We'll see. Man, this trail is messed up big time. I guess all the rains and the floods, the trail got eroded, and there's tons of ruts and bare rocks because all the dirt got washed away. It's doable and it's okay, but it's just annoying. Going very slow, have to watch every placement of every wheel, make sure that, and quite, I mean, 2 or 3 times I came close to flipping because there are like big ruts. But anyway, fingers crossed. All right, so I went through that downhill with lots of ruts and rocks and eroded road, and that was fun. Then I intersected with a very well-groomed road, kind of under a power line, and then it made left and right, but still very well-groomed and maintained, almost like a paved but unpaved. Then I made a turn at one point that had a sign that I'm going back to the Mojave Preserve. And now I'm on trails that are like nice, sandy, soft. I can go fast, I can go slow, I can stop and see stuff. But after, this is the 6th day I think, after 6 days in the desert, I want something nice and smooth to end the trip with. But this is nice. So I jinked myself before when I said nice sandy roads. There was a section of pretty technical stuff, but I just came, followed the trail, and I stumbled on whatever this is. Might be an old mine. Not sure, but cool. I have several miles, I'm not sure exactly how many, maybe 10, maybe 15, to get to a point that I have to make a decision. Do I get on a paved road or do I continue on trails? We'll see what time it is, we'll see how I feel, and we'll decide. But so far, I'm in this valley. I just hope it's not going to be the same as it was 2 days ago when I was in this valley, and because of floods, the trail was washed out and tons of rocks were deposited where the trail used to be, and I could not pass it by, and I ended up damaging the truck in multiple places because I tried to pass by and I got a flat tire. So hopefully this is not the same case, but if it is, I'm not taking any chances. I'm making a U-turn, but doesn't look like it is. So far so good. A little technical at some places, but not that bad. So I'm starting to see lots of washouts, but it's not bad at all. It's just a little sandy, but no rocks or anything. but it's hopefully it's continuing this way. But it's nice here. It's almost like a flat sort of a tundra with tons of bushes and these sandy trails in between. Cool. And again, a fun trail, sandy, open, you can see everywhere, soft, in opposed to the crazy rocks. Fun. So I got out, I did the trail, and I got to Geoff School since 1914. I read about this place. It's like a touristy place to go and see some things, I guess. Let's see if can I get in here. Okay, yeah, I guess I can. Oh, there's a museum. All right, that's a good end to the trip. There's a sign here that says Mitchell something. I don't really feel like going down and looking at everything, but it's interesting. Oh, Mitchell Caverns, 23 miles this way. Actually, I was close to, well, I was about 25 miles away from Mitchell Caverns from the other side. All right, a bunch of different things here. Look like some kind of a maze. I hope I'm allowed to drive like this. I'm gonna say it's a collection of different things.